Now, you can learn a lot about someone just by Googling their name. Now, some of what you learn, though, could be embarrassing, as we all know. But soon people in Europe will be able to wipe their Google slates clean. Al Jazeera's Dominic Kane explains why.
For years, sites like Google have enabled users to navigate their way around the web, accessing information about people and places wherever they are. But with so much data on the net, there have long been issues about who controls personal information once it's posted online. On Tuesday, the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg ruled in the case of a Spanish man who wanted to force Google to remove content about him that he said was out of date, not to mention embarrassing. In long and at times legally dense language, the court gave its response.
A search engine manager is obliged to eliminate from a list of internet search results following a search made on the basis of a person's name, links to websites published by third parties that contain information relating to that person.
The man who brought the case called the decision a victory for liberty.
If you say to me that by using the anonymity of the internet you can insult someone and say anything you want to them, with all due respect, for me that is not freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is every idea that can be passed along and appreciated.
That is not how Google sees it. In a statement, Google said, "This is a disappointing ruling for search engines and online publishers in general. We now need to take time to analyse the implications." For its part, the European Commission welcomed the decision, as did many social media users.
There isn't really any option on there to contact Google, to ask them to remove all pictures of yourself or any information on yourself, basically.
The Court of Justice's ruling is likely to change that. Dominic Kane, Al Jazeera.
Elisa Hutnick joins us now live from Washington. She's a partner at the Kelley Drye law firm that specializes in privacy and data security. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Juvenile records sealed forever. There's a statute of limitations on crimes, but that one night of wild drinking in college can haunt you forever online. Don't Americans have a right to be forgotten as well?
Well, we have a different approach in the U.S. versus EU. I mean, no doubt about it. This was an earthquake of a decision in the EU, and there will be aftershocks for some time to come. In the U.S., though, we don't have this fundamental right to privacy. There is a balance there. We've got to balance it against our right to free speech and right to free press.
But don't Americans usually believe that they are ahead of the curve as far as Europe is concerned with regards to individual rights, the right to privacy being key?
Well, right to privacy always is balanced against something else. I mean, we certainly don't want to end up in a place where we're plopping in a quarter for each internet search. And that's really one of the competing things here, because there is always a balancing test. And even in this EU High Court decision, there was a balancing there in terms of what is this fundamental right to privacy that they have versus the economic interests of Google or the public's right to access that information. That was not seen as important to that fundamental right to privacy, which is different in the U.S. and where there is a big support for business and a big support for privacy, but again, balanced against, are there other ways that we can address that?
Now, the EU Commissioner in his ruling saying this, he says the ruling confirms the need to bring today's data protection rules from the digital stone age into today's modern computing world. Doesn't he have a point? And shouldn't courts in the United States be looking at this ruling and saying, you know, maybe they got it right over there?
You know, what's interesting is that in the EU, the court came up with this decision on this endorsement of the right to be forgotten, this digital eraser button. And the last 2 years, the EU has really been working on it for legislation. Can we amend it to create this right to be forgotten? And the court here just went right to that step. In the U.S., there is no overarching federal privacy law. We take a more sectorial approach on certain kinds of businesses, certain kinds of data. So I think it remains to be seen, not so much that a court's going to come out with that decision in the U.S., but is there legislation that might do it in piecemeal? And on that, what at Kelley Drye we tell our clients is really watch what California is doing, because next year there is a children's digital eraser button that's on the books that's going into effect.
So that wild night of partying is going to stay online. Elisa Hutnick, she is the partner at Kelley Drye. She is in Washington. Thanks for being with us this morning.